right, we're gonna get started again. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that Thanksgiving meal. Hopefully you didn't eat too many carbs and don't fall asleep on me. But lots of coffee and desserts. There are not that many carbs? Corn is definitely a carb. Okay, so we're going to start off going back to 0015 because the resolution group came back. But before we jump into that, we're going to ask groups to go back out to resolution for 0331. 0331, prohibited behavior, discipline, and physical removal of children. So the only one that needed to be resolved was subsection 2. So 0331, subsection 2. So I'll ask you all to send out your folks with Zane. So this is just subsection 2. If we scroll to 2, was actually crossed out, so the new 2. Oh, 0331, prohibited behavior, discipline, and physical removal of children. Just subsection 2 needs to go out. Okay, licensing I already sent there, folks. It's just one subsection, so hopefully it should be pretty quick.
What's the number here? I'm sorry, we're trying to figure out what we're doing. Okay.
0331, subsection 2.
And we're sending that out to resolution.
Just subsection 2. It came from the prep call. You'll probably have to look at 1 and 2 together because they were kind of mixed. Yeah.
What we're seeing is what needs to go to TA is like this part, but when we look at number 2 up here, that's not what we see. This is what we see.
All right, so I've communicated with Zane. He has the correct version. Did everyone send their folks out? Okay, awesome. So we'll go back to 0015. The resolution group just came back with this one. And they were in charge of 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then number 5 is at the end. They didn't make any changes. Okay. 0015, licensee absence. So I will read to you, just so you all know, the blue bars indicate something that the November prep team call changed. All right, so number 1, in a family home early learning program, the family home licensee must have a written plan in place when the licensee plans to be absent from the program, but shall remain open for the care of children. If a family home licensee is gone more than 10 consecutive operating days, a written notification under the section must be submitted to the department, and each child's parent or guardian at least 2 business days prior to the planned absence from the early learning program at a weight of 5. Number 2, in a center early learning program, the director or assistant director must have a written plan in place when the director, assistant director, and program supervisor plan to be simultaneously absent, but the program remains open for the care of children. If the director, assistant director, and program supervisor are simultaneously absent for more than 10 consecutive operating days, a written notification is required under this section and must be submitted to the department and each child's parent or guardian at least 2 business days prior to the planned absence from the early learning program, a weight of 5. So the intention there from the group was to make both center and home the same. The new 3, so actually, if we scroll up really quick just to show people what happened, the new 3, this whole section, the group decided actually needs to be moved to 0210, which is in program admin. So there are notes there, and we'll move that off and make sure it's included when we get there. So that, which means the new 3 is a written notification must include the following information to the department. A, time period of the absence. B, emergency contact information for the absent early learning providers. C, a written plan which must be provided to the department for program staff to follow that includes 1, a staffing plan that meets child to staff ratios. 2, identification of lead teacher to be present and in charge. 3, early learning program staff roles and responsibilities. 4, how individual children's specialized needs will be met. 5, responsibility for meeting licensing requirements. And 6, how parents will be informed of the absence and the plan to meet their child's needs at a weight of NA. And I guess that's the new 4. Is still 5? Either way, if a family licensing compliance agreement, a FLCA, is developed as a result of the early learning program staff failing to follow licensing regulations during an absence described in the section, an early learning program must A, retrain early learning program staff on the foundational quality standards documented on the FLCA, and B, document that the retraining occurred. Sorry, not restraining. A weight of NA. Please don't do that. Okay, let's go back to number 1. This is family, home, early learning programs and their absences at a weight of 5. There's our consensus on just 1 and at a weight of 5. Family child care, all 5s. Dell licensing, all 5s. Parents, all 5s. Head Start ECAP, all 5s. And centers, all 5s. Number 2 is the same language for center early learning providers on absences at equal weight of 5. Family child care, 5s. Licensing, we're seeing 5s, okay. Parents, 5s, thank you. Head Start ECAP, I don't think that's a block, is it?
No, it's not a block.
Okay. I'll come back. Centers, 5s. So Head Start ECAP has a 3, so they're going to state their concern.
So this may be something that we will ask for a variance for. This is something, we have multiple redundant staff and supervision across our program, and so this may be one of those areas.
Okay, thank you. Yes, family childcare. Can we,
Needs to be cleaned up. I was starting to read it and it wasn't making, that you have a lot of butts in there and stuff, so it just needs to be cleaned up.
so just
Yeah,
a
there's
note
words
to,
missing, it's just a note that it needs wordsmithing.
thank you. I think that applies across all WAC once it gets to them, so. Take away all the buts and clean up all the grammar. Lots of buts. Thanks, Lori. Yeah, it's not clear. Okay, so we'll move on to, we'll skip E. So actually, let's take a look at E and just reach consensus that you all are okay to move it to 0210 where the group decided it more appropriately fits. So consensus to move it to 0120. Family child care, all fives. Licensing, all fives. Parents, all fives. Head Start ECAP, all fives. And centers, all fives. Thank you. So we'll move into the new 3 on written notifications, a weight of NA. All right, we're measuring consensus on the new 3, written notification. Family child care, all fives. Licensing, all fives. Head Start, ECAP. We have fives and 4 and 2 threes. Centers are all fives. Go back to parents of all fives. Okay, Head Start ECAP.
This is another one where we will request a variance. We do not have the same staffing structure that is listed out here, so it doesn't make a whole lot of sense for us.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so confirmed, this should be now the new 4. This is about what's on the FLICA and retraining staff that might have missed the policies at a weight of NA. So measure consensus on number 4. Family child care, all fives. Licensing, all fives. Parents, all fives. Head Start ECAP, all fives. And centers, all fives. Thank you. All right, great. So that one's reached consensus.
DEL would like to call for a 2-minute caucus.
Okay,
Please, thank you.
2 minutes on the clock.
To show
about to die. No. What's wrong with you? Why did you take your computer to the emergency? Actually, Abby was my daughter was relentless.
So Leanna Stevenson was here because her dad was
So the team caucus time is up. Licensing, do you need more time? 1 more minute on the clock for licensing, team caucus.
she didn't post too much, but I saw a lot of her. They have sort of a challenging family dynamic,
Yes, they do. I remember that.
and so she and her brother, sister, and father here.
Did you see Tiffany's post? Did you put together Tiffany's post? And a couple of weeks, 2 months ago. Well, she's cryptic, and I understood the cryptic. And so I reached out and I said something publicly, and then she immediately Facebook messaged me and said, really, how you felt. And I was like, Tiffany, you never said you were open-handed stuff and tell me to wake up. Yeah. And she has lupus, right? And she's doing better today. I asked her. I've been in really close communication.
Licensing, you're good
with her.
now?
So good. She was
Okay,
the only
great.
thing I was doing on Facebook because she had to go to court.
Okay, so we're gonna come back together.
Because, you know, she
We just reached consensus on this, so, right, yes.
proved to the judge by she didn't take it happen.
That brings us to 0355. So we're in 0355 under interactions and curriculum, and that's family home capacity ratio and group size.
Distracted him and
0355. 0355.
like it's like
0355 is family home capacity ratio and group size. 0356 is center capacity ratio and group size.
in my gut.
So that's the one that needs to go to a resolution. On 5-6, but the family one is there were no edits.
I was shocked.
Okay, so we're on 0355. It is on page 164. Does everyone have that? I don't see anyone calling out. 0355. 164.
Well, in minus 162, you guys have been adding and removing things.
Thank you. That's a really great point. Okay, so I will not try to do page numbers anymore. Thank you. It's in the 160s. Are you all there? Family home specifically, since it's about you. You guys there? Great. Okay, so I'll get started on 0355, family home capacity ratio and group sizes. Number 1. The department issues an initial or non-expiring family home licenses for up to 12 children. The department will not issue a family license to care for more children than permitted by the rules in this chapter. The department may issue a license to care for fewer than maximum allowable enrolled children. For each family home licensee, license state A, the maximum number of children they may be in care at any one time, total capacity, and B, the age range of children allowed in care, a weight of NA. 2, a family home licensee must not exceed the total capacity or enrolled children outside the age range stated on their license at any time. All children in care on the premises, at off-site activities, or being transported by the early learning provider, staff, or household members are counted towards total capacity. A family home licensee may care for a child with special needs who is older than the maximum age identified on the license with the department approval pursuant to WAC 0300. A child will child with documented special needs may be in care up to age 19 and must be counted in capacity and staff to child ratio. B, if a child with special needs requires individualized supervision, a staff member providing individualized supervision for that child does not count in the staff to child ratio for the other children in care. Weight of 7. 3, any child birth through 12 years old on the premises signed into the child care and on an off-site trip from early learning program or being transported counts in capacity. This includes a family home licensee's own children, children of staff, or visiting children not occupied or supervised by a child. A weight of 6. By an adult. Thank you. 4, a family home licensee must provide qualified staff to fill the staffing requirements and staff to child ratios during operating hours, including off-site activities and when transporting children in care. Weight of NA. 5, a family home licensee must provide additional staff pursuant to WAC 0350 when children are participating in water activities or activities near water. Weight of NA. 5, the department determines capacity for a family home early learning program after considering A, square footage of the early learning program, B, an early learning provider's year of experience in licensed care, C, a provider's education and ongoing training, D, the age range requested and or approved by the department, E, the amount of developmentally appropriate equipment, materials, and toys a provider can provide children to use, F, a provider's licensing history with the department, and G, the number of qualified staff available to meet staff to child ratios. Weight of NA. 7, when applying for an initial or non-expiring family home license, a family home licensee with less than 1 year of experience may request from the department a capacity of up to 6 children, birth through age 12 years of age. A maximum of 3 children may be under 2 years of age. 1 child must be able to walk independently. Experience is defined as a center director, program supervisor, lead teacher, a family home licensee, or other similar role in a licensed child care setting. Weight of NA. 8, when applying for an initial or non-expiring family home license, a family home licensee with at least 1 year but less than 2 years of experience and A, working alone may request a capacity of up to 8 children ages 2 through 12 years of age with a maximum of 4 children under 3 years of age. B, working with a qualified assistant may request a capacity of up to 9 children birth through 12 years of age with a maximum of 4 children under 2 years of age. Weight of NA. 9, when applying for an initial or non-expiring family home license, a family home licensee with at least 2 years of experience and A, working alone may request a capacity of up to 10 children ages 3 years through 12 years of age. B, working with a qualified assistant may request a capacity of up to 12 children birth through 12 years old, 12 years of age with a maximum of 6 children under 2 years of age, with 2 children being able to walk independently. A weight of NA. 10, the staff to child ratio is determined by the ages and number of children in care. 2 early learning program staff are required at any time. A, more than 6 children in care and any child in care is under 2 years of age. B, more than 8 children are in care and any child in care is under 3 years of age. And C, more than 10 children are in care, a weight of 7. And then there's the table, which would need to be updated accordingly. It needs to be updated. So I think when we get down there, Lori, if we just make a note that whatever is approved, we'll update the chart. Okay, so we'll go up to number 1. Yes.
I would like a 2-minute caucus, please.
Okay, family child care, I'll put 2-minute team caucus on the clock.
Tell us about your resolution.
It was good. She said it was okay. I mean, it was negotiation.
Family home ratio. So we're actually we're about to come up on two. I was like, if I were
Was she shopping?
it was Piggy and Piggy. No, I was to go through and do something. So I have them hooked out to different readers and students Tulip, what's the name?
Piggy and Julep.
Tulip.
Julep and Piggy.
So we're about to talk about other.
Centers have requested a sidebar. So we'll put 2 minutes on the clock for the sidebar.
Who are they sidebar to? Who are not the sidebar winners?
So this next section is going to be about the center capacity. We're okay with the center language. We wanted a variance about size ratio. It's too crazy. Statement is flat. That I have. I certainly twist and everything around That's right. But if this one is wonky, then so
It twists, and then you have to have some stacking toys with their legs. Yeah. You wind them up and they go.
So the reason why I said that was that, so my understanding from the last alignment meeting was that they had changed the Eckers 3.
Well, the ages.
To be reduced to
Two and a half, exactly.
Yes.
I think the Eckers 3 does, because that's been a huge challenge in states all over the place. It's 0 to 2.5, and 2.5 to 5, and I guess strictly 36 months.
right, but that actually is now then no longer in alignment with the way that you define the So anyway,
Actors reading scale. 24.95.
6 key definitions. Really?
so for this section, not the
Yes.
demo, we didn't have any opinions on the demo.
Ages 2.5 to 3 now fall into hitters. That's different.
Centers and family, do you need more time? Nope.
So this should be aligned with us.
It's CRS 3, because that's the very CRS 3.
So is this something that we want to block and revisit?
All right, family childcare, since you called the team caucus, we'll go to you first.
We're requesting an action, a TA, a resolution, coinciding with centers.
So whoever goes out.
355 and 356.
Okay. All right. We will,
What are the issues? They're not consistent. Especially when it comes to centers that are a Montessori program, maybe you would be better at describing this.
What we wanted to take a look at was mixed age grouping so that Montessori schools can operate with the required age groupings that we have to have in order to be accredited, is one issue. And we were looking at mixed age groupings for before and after school so that we can have a 4.5-year-old with their sibling who may be 6, and they can be in the same group for a little bit of time before or after school. It doesn't make sense that we are being so rigid in our mixed age grouping. So we're just trying to figure out a way to handle that. We also had an issue that we wanted to be just more specific about the special needs to make sure that that was a documented special need with specific documentation so that it wasn't just subject to interpretation by a parent or by licensing staff.
Okay, so I'm gonna, sorry, I didn't see who went first. So licensing first and then family childcare.
Okay, so I'm understanding what the concerns are regarding 0356. I'm not knowing why we need to subgroup on 0355. I just need to know what the issues are there.
Family,
Originally, we just asked for a caucus, and then centers asked to sidebar with us. And so our caucus is already settled. We know what we want to say during voting. Well, again, what our caucus is that the wording in the WAC does not match the chart, and that's what we want.
so centers, do you want to take some time? The table. Centers, do you need a team caucus? Okay, we'll put 2 minutes on the clock for a team caucus.
So one is that this rigid list of ages is insanity making, and it is not developmentally appropriate for us when we operate our programs at the ratios that we are required to do. So we are going to be requesting a variance. I mean, if you'd like to let the Montessori people be a little flexible too, right? Because we don't actually think that this is so necessary that this be so rigid and not be able to allow kids to developmentally move and not based on where they are. It's almost too rigid, but we are going to request a variance regardless. The other thing that we want to raise is that the new ECHOs, this is not recommended in this, but we are defining preschoolers as 30 months, and the new ECHOs does not. It starts at 36. Which is a good change. It is. It's just a comment that this is now out for my the way the program changed for new shippers. I'm not sure that anybody's going to want to address that because they're not going to want to reduce the ratios from 2.5 to 2. For us, it doesn't affect us because we have the ratios for the 2.5 ratios.
Okay, centers, are you ready? So it sounds like family home is okay with measuring consensus on 0355 with to the table. Yep, that all changes are. Can we change it now? Let's see what centers want to say first about that moving forward with 0355.
Our concern is that there's so much overlap and there needs to be consistency with how we're approaching this for both family home and center. And so in the language, and we'd really like to be able to look at both of these rules at the same time in small groups so that we can come to an agreement.
Okay, parents had a comment as well, and then we'll go back to family childcare.
We think that looking at this, if someone new was to start a child care, it's really going to be hard to understand that maybe Dale can, is it Dale? The technical writers can kind of fix this and condense it down to where it's easier to read.
Yeah, that's what the chart is made for. So if the chart were updated, do you think that would meet the needs of Okay. Would it for you? You need to see it.
Maybe after we see the updated
Okay.
chart,
Sure.
it might be easier to read.
So licensing, let's hear from you, and there's some options on the table here.
I don't have a problem in looking at the two side by side, but in reality, this is one of the places where there is such a strong difference between what we're evaluating in a family home and in a center in terms of capacity. Family homes are by necessity a lesser number, and so we're trying to keep them having some flexibility and yet still meet the needs of children. So that's why they look so different. They are very different. In this kind of scenario, they are very different. We agree that the chart needs to be corrected. That was an error and it shouldn't be there. But we think these are two different animals when it comes to capacity, group size, those kinds of things. So that's just our opinion.
Parents.
So after the chart's updated, can we vote on this then? Or
Go ahead.
Many of our centers are schools that have a school day, and they have before and after school, and they have childcare on non-school days where numbers are dramatically less than on a typical school day. So what we're trying to figure out is how, so we're trying to deal with not just the school days, but we're also trying to look at when we have, 15 children maximum. How do we handle that? And they may span from preschool to a 6-year-old. How do we actually accommodate that? And we want to be able to provide enough flexibility so that we are not overburdening our families. And so that's really what we're looking at is we're not quite understanding the concern about mixed ages. If the mixed ages are allowable in a family setting, when you have small numbers, why are they not allowable in a center setting? That's the question.
Small centers. So we haven't heard from Head Start ECAP yet on your preference on how to handle moving forward with this.
I just got a breath mint and I started chewing it, so it's a little hard for me to speak right now. So, I'm actually very sympathetic. We're very sympathetic too. In fact, we're just talking about the Montessori issue and all of these issues of mixed ages and moving the ages and all of that pertain very closely to Head Start and ECAP and the before and after school care as well. That said, I don't know that we have as big of a concern about really having this differentiation between family child care and us as long as our issues are resolved as part of the center-based stuff, that there's a recognition that the safety issues are somewhat similar, and in fact, we approach the ratios in a very similar way. I have, I hear safety when people talk about this, but I've never actually seen anything that shows me that that's a legit concern, given the ratios that we're talking about when we have those when we do have those mixed age groups.
Okay. Licensing.
Call to vote on 0355 or to call for consensus, because it sounds to me like our concern is not with the family home, but it's on the next one when we get into the center capacity and ratio and mixed groupings.
So I have to go back to centers because you're the ones who want to keep them together. So. Okay, one minute caucus.
So the next section is the center-based mixed age group stuff. And what it does is
So, yeah, like you're referring, if we get 9 or 10 3-year-olds and we can't have one center. Are you talking about? Yeah, well, you can never have, no matter how old they are, they're early Head Start, right? But for Head Start, when you get to a certain number of 3-year-olds, you have to lower the number of 4-year-olds.
All right, centers, are you ready to, okay,
I know most
thank you. Centers, we'll hear from you then.
even the new ones now are now young. I'm getting, I thought I would never, like, I knew the old ones like the back of my hand, like I knew this one. Now I thought, I'll never learn these new ones like that. Now I'm like, oh, no, hang on.
We're gonna need a couple of people to go out and visit this, both the center capacity ratio group size part and the mixed age part.
I think the niches should go.
Does one influence the other?
They're very calm and sweet.
So I don't care who goes, but I think it might be good if everybody goes. There's a lot about the Head Start standards in the way that early Head Start works. So any two of you, I'll just email
Okay,
you.
do rock, paper, scissors.
I'll email you all the comments from the
So we're back, let's come back together. I've heard from centers that they're okay with measuring consensus on 0355 now. Can I confirm that? Centers are okay with measuring consensus on 0355. Multiple groups would like to see the chart change before we do any kind of consensus taking, so we're going to do that together. So if someone could guide Lori. Okay, so now the chart reflects the wording above. Okay, good. That was an easy fix. Yes, licensing.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you, Brenda. Okay, so we've updated the chart, so we'll go back up to number 1 and measure consensus through each of the subsections. I actually like to pause since the subgroup is back and see if people are comfortable sending the next subgroup out. If anyone objects, please raise your hand. We can, absolutely. Okay, number 1, let's measure consensus on language and wait for number 1. Family homes are all 5s. Licensing all 5s. Head Start ECAP all 5s. Centers all 5s. Parents all 5s. So we'll move to number 2 at a weight of 7. Okay, we'll do a 1-minute sidebar.
Oh, we're in the minority. We're in the, whatever. But that Cleveland Latin is now in a marked container.
We're on number 2, and we're measuring consensus. Do you have something, Kat?
Actually, we would like to add wording to B,
Okay.
and we would like our friends at the center table to provide the wording for that.
Sorry. This was where we actually had discussions about this on our call as well. And we understand that the intent is when we have a situation where it's a documented special need that requires individualized instruction, we agree that there needs to be individualized supervision that does not count in ratio. However, we want to make sure that this is very, very clear that it is in the case where there is legal documentation to support it and it's not open to interpretation because you have a child that might take a little bit more attention because of behavior or whatnot. So we have language that says after supervision, saying pursuant to the documentation in WAC 170-300-0300, Section 4, in parentheses, IEP, IHP, 504, or IFSP. We made that and we actually sent that to, we drafted it and sent it, we actually sent this to Judy over the last week, suggesting this as formal.
And just so you know, Dell likes it.
Just say. Okay. Could we do that? That would be obvious. 35 feet though for every year trouble. We're trying to tell one of our things that make those teachers outside of room. Oh yeah.
And boy, you would have thought I was cutting off their arms.
I know.
We worked, we gave them nice works, and everything, but
Well, they have.
both times I came in, where did the first time?
Well, so there's the, and our interesting thing is we have 35 feet for enough kids and two teachers. But as soon as we add, maybe a huge desk. So as soon as you add, if you need to add a third person in the room, you can't do it. Get the desk on the desk person. And it barely fits. This is Franklin Pierce that refurbished an old church to make an early learning center. but they made the spaces for the room for 19 kids with 35 feet, they made it so tight. We can't have a third person with coffee. And if they take the desks out, they make it just by like a quarter of an inch, right? But that's what she said. We told them to take the desks out. You would have thought we were cutting their legs off. So we did exactly what she said. If you want a TCA or a third person, you have to remove the desk. So we're not paying for a TCA that is now makes you illegal and all of the We are not paying for
All right, thanks for being with us. So, if a child with special need requires individualized supervision pursuant to the documentation in WAC 0 through 100, Section 4, IEP, IHP, 504, or IFSP, to support persons providing individual supervision for that child does not count in the staff to child ratio for the other children in care. A weight of 7. Is that how you wanted it? Great. It was well done. Nice work, Center. Nice work with a sidebar. Nice work, Lori. All right, so let's measure consensus on number 2. All right, family child care all 5s, licensing all 5s, parents all 5s, Head Start ECAP all 5s, and centers all 5s. Great. We'll move into number 3. Okay, and that's a weight of 6. Number 3, language and weight of 6. I'll wait until people are ready. So licensing are all 5s. Family child care all 5s. Parents all 5s. Head Start ECAP all 5s. Okay, centers all 5s. So we'll go back to family child care. There's all 5s, 1, 3. So please state your concern.
We have a concern that when a visiting child is there to visit the provider's own child, both of which are over 12, that they not be counted in ratio. It says through 12? Twice now I've done that, sorry.
Okay, so this comment is no longer needed. It's the middle of the day. Okay, so we've reached consensus on number 3. We'll move to number 4. Must provide qualified staff during operating hours, including transporting child in care, a weight of NA. Number 4. We'll measure consensus on number 4. Family child care, all 5s, 1, 4. Licensing, all 5s. Head Start ECAP, all 5s. Centers, all 5s. Parents, all 5s. Okay. Number 5. Okay, this is related to water activities, and it's a weight of NA. Family child care, all 5s. Licensing, all 5s. Head Start ECAP, all 5s. You had a 4 over here. Family home had 5s and 1 4. Sorry, centers. You had your hands up and I missed it. So all 5s. Yep, okay. Parents, all 5s. Okay. So that was a 4, not a 3, right? So I'm good. Just a 4, okay. So now we're on 6. This is how you're determining capacity, how Dal will be determining capacity at a weight of NA. So we're measuring number 6. Family child care, all 5s and 1 4. Licensing, is that a 5? Yes, okay, all 5s. Head Start ECAP, all 5s. Centers, all 5s. Parents, Kevin, sorry, did I get, okay, all fives. Great. Number seven. This is about people with less than 1 year of experience. Weight of NA, number 7. Family child care, all fives except for 1-4. Licensing, all fives. Head Start ECAP, is that a 4? Or is it all fives? All fives. Centers, all fives. So go back to parents whenever you're ready. Okay, parents, all fives as well. Number 8. This is for people with at least 1 year but less than 2 years of experience, a weight of NA. Family child care, all fives except for 1-4. Licensing, all fives. Head Start ECAP. Is that a 5 here too? Okay, all fives. Centers, all fives. Parents, all fives. 9. This is for at least 2 years of experience, a weight of NA. Family child care, all fives except for 1-4. Licensing, all fives. Parents, all fives. Head Start ECAP, all fives. Centers, all fives. 10. Okay, a weight of 7, number 10. Family child care, all fives, 1-4. Licensing, all fives. Parents, all fives. Head Start ECAP, all fives. And centers, all fives. All right, and then we've updated the chart. For fun, let's also measure consensus on all of the charts that we agree that it's all updated now. All right, family child care, fives. Licensing, all fives. Parents, all fives. Head Start ECAP, all fives. And centers, all fives. Nice work, thank you. Okay, so that one will move to consensus. That was 0355 has reached consensus. I'm going to propose. Woo! All right. Zane's going to put on the thermometer. I'm going to propose that since we're talking about capacity ratio group sizes, let's put 0356 and 0357 together and send them both out to TA resolution. So please take a minute to figure out who you'll send from each group to TA resolution. We're going to work on 0356 and 0357 together.
All right.
0356.
I'll give me those in
Yep.
you guys. It says, I just might be wondering, never been spotted in the same room at the same time.
My dad's been calling my mom Wonder Woman for years, decades. And so, yeah, he got her. Yes, but what I saw on was that you can get into Siri and get Siri to call me Wonder Woman every time she talks to you. And so when
To call her Wonder Woman. But it would still be fun when she does it, right?
Okay, we're going to come back together again. Time check, we have 25 minutes until our next break. I can see the snacks too. This motivation. Looks really good. Okay, we're going to come back to 0331 where the small group came back and brought language to us. There is a small group out now. Did everyone send this people for their small group out now?
We did.
Oh, parents still need to. Okay. Take your time. My apologies.
It makes what? I want. Okay, you do that, and you can bring back bags for us. I'll give you the money. With the, and will it hold the computer? Well, this is my check. Yeah, I got that the other day for $14.
I have been first shopping recently, like whenever I'm in a state.
Well, I only bought it because it was on clearance for $14. Because I really am looking for one with a strap, but mine that has the strap and the handles is like starting to, like, things are like starting to fall apart, and, yeah. So I went, well, I will buy this.
Okay, looks like everyone has now sent people out to the small group. So we'll review what the small group did for 0331. All right, so 0331 is about, it's called Prohibited Behavior, Discipline, and Physical Removal of Children. So you'll see they actually crossed out language from before that was proposed by Dell. One of the biggest changes is they moved number 2 up to number 1. And the reasoning behind it is number 1 applies to everyone, so child to child or adult to child. That was the description I got. No? I'll just read it and you can decide after that. An early learning provider must take steps to prevent and once aware must not tolerate A, profanity, obscene language, put downs, or cultural racial slurs. B, anger, hostile interactions. C, threats of physical harm or inappropriate discipline such as but not limited to spanking, biting, jerking, kicking, hitting, slapping, grabbing, shaking, pulling hair, pushing, shoving, throwing a child, or inflicting pain or humiliation as a punishment. D, intimidation, gestures, or verbal abuse including sarcasm, name-calling, shaming, humiliation, teasing, derogatory remarks about a child or the child's family. E, emotional abuse including victimizing, bullying, rejecting, terrorizing, extended ignoring, or corrupting a child. Or F, prevent a child from or punish a child for exercising religious rights. G, anyone to restrict a child's breathing, bind or restrict a child's movement unless permitted under WAC 0335, tape a child's nose, mouth, or other body part. 4, deprive a child of sleep, food, clothing, shelter, physical activity, first aid, or regular or emergency medical dental care. 5, force a child to ingest something as punishment such as hot sauce or soap. 5, interfere with a child's ability to take care of his or her own hygiene and toileting needs. 7, use toilet learning or training methods that punish, demean, or humiliate a child. 8, withhold hygiene care, toileting, or diaper changing from any child unable to provide such care for himself or herself. I'm off now. Expose a child to extreme temperature as punishment. Demand excessive physical exercise or strenuous postures. Excessive physical exercise includes, but is not limited to, running laps around the yard until overly tired, an extensive number of push-ups, having a child rest more than the child's development requires, standing on one foot for an uncomfortable amount of time, or holding out one's arm until tired or painful. Place the separated child in a closet, bathroom, locked room, outside, or in an unlicensed space, and use high chairs, car seats, or other confining space or equipment to punish a child or restrict movement. A weight of 8. Okay, so that was the original 2 became 1. The original 1 became 2, which is an early learning provider must actively supervise to protect children from the harmful acts of other children pursuant to WAC 0335. A provider must intervene immediately when they become aware that a child or children are teasing, fighting, bullying, intimidating, or becoming physically aggressive, a weight of 7. There's more. Is there a 3? Keep going, make sure. There is a 3. An early learning provider may separate a preschool age or school age child from other children when that child needs to regain control of himself or herself. During separation time, the child must remain under the direct supervision of a licensee, center director, assistant director, program supervisor, lead teacher, or an appropriately trained staff member. I don't think there's a question mark there. That needs to be there. Separation time should be minimized and appropriate to the needs of individual child, weight of 6. 4. If a child is separated from other children, an early learning provider must A, consider the child's developmental level, language skills, individual and special needs, and ability to understand the consequences of his or her actions, and B, communicate to the child the reason for being separated from the other children, weight of 5. And number 5, if an early learning provider follows all strategies in this section and a child continues to behave in an unsafe manner, only a licensee, center director, assistant director, program supervisor, lead teacher, or appropriately trained staff person may physically remove the child to a less stimulating environment. Staff must remain calm and use a calm voice when directing the child. Physical removal of a child is determined by the child's ability to walk. A, if the child is willing and able to walk, staff may hold the child's hand and walk him or her away from the situation. B, if the child is not able to walk, staff may pick the child up and remove him or her to a quiet place where the child cannot hurt themselves or others, a weight of 6. Okay, I'll actually pause and see if anyone from the small group wants to clarify what I said maybe inappropriately at first. Yeah.
I don't remember what number it was, but there was one that said pursuant to 0335. And when I'm looking at that, it had something to do with, okay, no, it wasn't that, because it had to do with the children bullying, I think, that referred to, yeah. So that has to, 0335 has to do with physical restraint. So I'm not sure if that, I don't understand why that is there. I know, but 335 is about physical restraint. And I don't think children, we're going to have children physically restraining other children.
So yes, that was the one we just tabled to look at with 0490 and 016. Okay, so let's just go back up there and make sure.
Sorry.
Yep.
I just want to make a note that that reference that was in there, it was not in the notes from Issaquah. That pursuant in that reference. We didn't add that pursuant. I'm saying in Issaquah, whenever we looked at that, the notes that I've sent to you guys from there because they got lost. Yeah.
So I'm hearing that you want to just strike pursuant to WAC 0335. Okay. But only in this section. So an early learning provider must actively supervise to protect children from the harmful acts of other children. And they must intervene immediately. Yes, parents.
Can I request a sidebar, please?
Sure. How much time do you need, do you think?
2 minutes.
2-minute sidebar. With who? Okay, parents are going to sidebar with Head Start.
Because realistically, anytime you use one of those, you're restricting the restraining. So I just don't know.
Because they're fussing with each other. It's not like they're playing happily and they touch each other. But we're talking about more city. One of them is restraining the kid and they'll tell you that.
It is restraining, or it is restricting. So I will just say, so across that, those are my only.
Well, I do remember when they taught my kids
They look done. So parents, would you like to
Yeah.
comment? Okay.
I would be happy to. Although that doesn't really work because it's about bullying. I'm not happy about bullying. I take it all back. No, I will absolutely tell you what we were talking about. We're having a problem because we're thinking about two children fighting, and if you have to remove them from each other and physically pick them up and pull them away from each other, that is pursuant to 335 because it is physical restraint. And I don't know if that's what the Dell meant when they said, like, because that writing came from a technical writer or somebody, but that's what popped into my head instantly was you got to pull them away from each other, and that's physical restraint, and then that's part of 0335, and in my personal opinion and the majority of our parents' opinion, that's tabled. We should table 2. Yeah.
For number 2? For number 1? Okay, so number 1's adult to child versus number 2 is child to child? Is that how the small group interpreted this?
Yes, but we still have to protect the children from harmful acts of other children, which may require you to physically remove them from each other, which, right. I get that we're talking about children and they don't have to follow the WACs. They don't even know what a WAC is. But the providers do.
So maybe we need to add the sentence, if a provider needs to physically restrain the children, it must be done pursuant to.
Oh, see, now that's clever.
Well, we are already
So sorry,
going-
licensing had their hand up first, and then we'll go to centers.
I'm sorry.
This section is talking about actively supervising to protect children.
We're on number 2, right?
Number 2 is really talking about actively supervising, intervening. I mean, I don't think the intent of this was to talk about restraining. I think it was just saying intervening. I get what your point is, but I don't think that's the intent of this one. It's just saying you gotta respond if you see kids bullying, picking on each other, becoming aggressive. The expectation is that you will intervene.
Well, my devil's advocate would be if somebody reads that and then they act on that by intervening, by physically restraining them, you're going to want them to be pursuant to that WAC code.
Yes. But then it would need a new sentence because we would not normally think that that where you're going to need to go is to restraining a child.
I love that. So let's add this to the 335 physical restraint section that we're going to talk about in January. That's my proposal.
Okay, centers?
Just this one.
I'm just thinking we're not always going to be able, the whole WAC would need to reference like everything if we tried to reference everything within every WAC that correlated. So I'm thinking because restraint is definitely going to be covered, if it happened, it's covered in another WAC. I mean, it's there, so we don't need it here because it will be there. And so it's not like it's not going to exist. We just don't need to complicate this one because it will exist.
So can we actually scroll up to the title of this? So the title of this says prohibited behavior, discipline, and physical removal of children. Just want to state that. Prohibited behavior, discipline, and physical removal of children. So
If they won't hold your hand in walk, I'm sorry. What are you doing? If they won't hold your hand in walk, then what are you doing? That's restraint.
So the proposals on the table are to take 2 and add a new sentence to add in restraint. If restraint is used, be pursuant to 30335, and then to table it, or to remove the pursuant language altogether. So those are the 2 options on the table right now. So I'm going to ask for 1 minute, Team Caucus, to make a decision on which of those 2 options you want to use. Okay. The title is Prohibited Behavior, Discipline, and Physical Removal of Children. So I'm going to put 1 minute on the clock for Team Caucus to make a decision how to move forward.
Well, no, and if you even say like, I could be a question where it's like, why don't we go for a walk? I mean, you know, like, sometimes that works, but sometimes not. So then you have to say, I'm gonna pick you up, because we need to take a walk. I need to keep you safe. Exactly. We have mantras in Head Start.
So a minute isn't up, but I think everyone looks like they're ready to make a decision. Any groups not ready? Parents need some time. You are ready. Centers, are you ready? Yes? No. I'll let, is it time? Okay, it's actually time now, so you're ready. Before we get comments, Lori has proposed a 3rd option.
Situation where we're kind of getting lost in the weeds. And I'd like to step in, please, and add a comment bubble that there was discussion around this particular clarifier here pursuant to that site, and just leave a note for Dell Tech writers to make sure that this section is talking about actively supervising and intervening when necessary, and we want to make sure that the other section talks about physical restraint, because if you will notice, this particular section just says you're going to step in and do something. I don't see anything here that says it's going to be physical restraint. You're just watching and taking action when necessary. And physical restraint is covered somewhere else, and it tells you when physical restraint is appropriate in that other section.
Okay, parents?
Sorry, I got frustrated. I'm just gonna throw the language out here that I have written down. If you want to humor me, it says a provider must intervene immediately when they are aware that when child or children are teasing, blah blah blah, an immediate physical aggravation. A provider must take steps to protect the child from harmful acts of other children pursuant to the WAC 0335. So it's saying basically if must take steps if it needs to happen. And
Okay.
that opens the door if there is a physical restraint that needs to happen, that it's covered in order to prevent it.
Okay, that the way you worded that, it came across to me like now they have to restrain them. And that would not be what we'd want, and I don't think that's what you meant. But if I were reading the WAC written that way and it says pursuant this, I would think it meant I have to go in and restrain the child. And we don't want to do that.
Yeah. Well, I just want to point out the information that the WAC information that I'm reading is from Issaquah, the one that we agreed upon in Issaquah. And that's how we had it written. So, and that's why I'm sharing that. So we can change the must to a may to cover that, to make it to where it's saying if it comes to that. But I think that would cover this because, I'm sorry, anytime you're pilling a child and you're restricting a child's movement, so you're pilling a child off of another child, you're restricting that child's movement towards the other child. And that's considered a removal, an escort, or physical removing of a physical restraint.
So I'd like to propose that we get the language from the parents, but in the meantime, we just go ahead and measure consensus on one, and then take our break. Tyler will show you the great fruit that's available. So I want to make sure everyone gets their break and gets their snack, but I do also want to make sure, I think we all agree on one, so let me see if that's true. So let's measure consensus on all of one. Okay, so centers are all 5, Head Start ECAP all 5s, parents are all 5s, licensing all 5s, and family child care all 5s. Awesome, so we can leave to break knowing that 1, we reached consensus, and we'll grab parents' language for number 2. We'll show that when we come back. All right, so we'll take a 10-minute break. Right? Yep, 10-minute break, so we'll come back at 2:40.
So the family engagement coaches are sending people to me and they can answer the question about resources in the community. You know what I want to say? Figure out how to pay for it out of your summer budget. Well, that's first I'm like, is that family on 10? And where have you reached out? I want to have some understanding, but the answer for this family is got a job, lost her job. It's 2 miles to get the to school. Federal way doesn't provide transportation. They're riding the bus at $6 a day. It's starting to become so pay for it. Tell mom gets a job. Anyway, and then the first thing was saying, we don't want to set a precedent of what then keep looking for community resources. Like, but I just very calmly ask these questions, right? I'm just like,
Lori, I'm gonna send it to you right now.
do you want me to like tell you? Just pay for it? Sometimes I wonder like, and I'll just say, and I will say, the only thing I can think of besides well, is that you meet as a center and decide to do something temporary for this family till mom's ankle is better and they're back to work. And talk to your damn district and not tell them that they really need to do some in-food transportation. If the ECAP got, and this is ECAP, and it says in there that we could do everything we can to get kids there. To get kids there, and I'm like, we were like, and if they're homeless, you have to do everything that you can. We were like, we can't. We would love to do that. If you fund us to do that, we would gladly send taxis and Ubers or whatever. Yeah, wouldn't that be my other job? I could do that other job. Run around and pick people up. Well, I think we're gonna try a corporate Uber for early Head Start. Because the taxis, well, it's not only expensive, but like they'll say they went to pick somebody up and the family never responded, so they're charging us a fee. The family's like, they never came. Like, it's just, so with Ubers, you set it all up, and when the family picks to have the Uber come when they're ready, we can see the whole. Yep, they just have to hit they're ready, and the Uber will show up, or schedule it, pre-schedule it or whatever, and then. Yeah, it's called Uber Kids or Uber something. Yeah. Well, then, because I was joking around with Isaiah's girlfriend, because she was like, I can make extra money that way. I don't know that. You know, like she was, and then when they came out and we started talking about that, she was like, yeah, I'll do that. I'll pick up kids and take them back to my kids. But I'll pick up this 7 or the 8-year-olds playing soccer, right? Or taking them to Spanish class or Chinese class or music lessons. Yeah.
Sorry.
I'm thinking I'm gonna have to borrow some.
So that just means to go in and my person.
I'd have to borrow some Jordan.
Indian and part.
Innovation Center has all their own projectors and everything. They won't let me bring this stuff. Yeah, so I'll bring in the cameras and PowerPoint so the construction, like another connection center, they assist you use their stuff and anything. I know. Excellent. You're welcome.
Okay, we're going to come back together. All right, so those of you who can hear me that are still outside, we're going to come back together now. So I still see a few Head Start ECAP. Maybe this will help. We'll see. While we were waiting, you might have seen cupcakes out there. So we want to celebrate anyone's birthday who's in November. So if it's your birthday, please let us know. Someone in your group. Yes, stand up if it's your birthday in November. Jess's birthday in November. Happy birthday. Anyone else? That's it? Just one November birthday? Oh. Claudette as well. Happy birthday, Claudette. Tell. Does everyone have their people back? Head Start ECAP? You look a little sparse over there. You're fine. You're fine? Okay. So where we left off is that we took consensus on number 1. We reached consensus. Number 2, we were still considering whether there needed to be language to reference 0335. So there was some conversations. I'm going to propose that we move into a 2-minute team caucus to decide whether or not any language needs to be added here and whether or not your group has any proposed changes. So we're going to move into, unless anyone objects. Okay, so let's move into a 2-minute team caucus / orange eating and then disposal time. Put that on the clock. Thank you.
We had staff, and we had another parent, severe. We were at a conference one time, and she must not have put it on her thing, and they served oranges, and she didn't see it. Somebody in the room, it was a huge room, somebody peeled the orange, she starts having it. I'm like, what? Angela, I don't know if you remember her. Her name was Angela. About which one? Number 2. They should know that, right? Right. So. Collecting oranges. Collecting this. Karen's trying to keep her contraband. Then we got some really good cupcakes. You know, we don't serve any sweets at our policy council, like we follow the same kind of thing we would do at last year. But at the end of the year, so the new year when the don't open it now. We served something celebratory, you know, at that last meeting. We ordered cupcakes, and these were the best cupcakes. Well, we did it at Sam's Club because they made cupcakes, and you get like, they're normal. They're not the size of a head. And they are, I want to say 24 or 36 for like $14. So we ordered them from there, and I thought, I hope these are okay. She's doing an orange stuff. You know, whoever killed we should wash them. Because the oil from the orange is what it really is.
Just to keep everyone up to date on what's going on, parents are proposing some language, so that's what's being typed on the screen right now.
Actually, yeah, let's go. We have many meetings of which John and we are walking, and I am not walking. I'm gonna make right off of 405. No. Yeah, that's further. This is like just as you're coming down into Bellevue, you just go up the hill to their office. That's not bad. I leave at Ozark 30 and it takes me still an hour.
Yeah, I try to.
I have to plan an hour. If I don't,
If I go to our office, it's 2.5. If I have a 9 o'clock meeting, I leave my house by 6:30 to guarantee I'll be there. Sometimes I'm there at 8:30 and I get work done. Sometimes I'm there at, sometimes I get there at 8, sometimes it's easy. But sometimes I get there at 8:59 for a 9 o'clock meeting.
yeah.
And then by 6:30. Awesome.
And then the other day, I left in plenty of time, right? I was an hour and 15 minutes. I gave myself to get there. South Center, right? Because you know we're doing not far from South Center. It took me 2 hours and 25 minutes because I overturned semi-truck. So I'm like making phone calls in. We're just sitting, you know, it's so good my car Bluetooth. I'm like, okay, call this, do that. I'm calling people. I'm not going to be there. Can you blah, blah, blah. And take your name to that meeting and drop it off and tell them to call me. Yeah. Yes. Yes.
When I go to work, go on.
10:15 outside. You're down the street. Because someone's allergic to oranges, so they're trying to. We're airing out orange. Oh yeah. One of my daughters will not go to her boycott.
Okay, sorry for the cold. Hopefully we'll get citrus out. So let's get back to number 2, subsection 2. Parents have suggested some language that the end of the sentence, if physical restraint is required, refer to WAC 0335. Okay. Too cold. All right, we're going to close the door. Thank you for bearing with a little bit of cold. Okay, so I'm going to read it again. The new language is if physical restraint is required, please refer to WAC 0335. And so we're going to measure consensus on the full language as is on the screen. So is that a comment? Okay, go ahead.
WAC isn't normally so polite.
How is that, Judy? All right, so I'm going to measure consensus with the language and the weight of 7 on the screen. Measuring consensus with the language of number 2 as is on the screen. Family child care 5s, licensing 5s. Parents 5, Head Start ECAP 5s, And centers, 5s. Great. All right, so let's move into number 3. This is specific to preschool age and school age children at a weight of 6. So measure consensus on number 3. Family child care 5s, licensing 5s. Yep, we're doing number 3. This is specific to preschool age and school age children. Head Start ECAP, again, thank you, 5s. Centers, need some time. Parents, okay. Parents have 5s and 1 3. Centers have 5s and 1 3. Okay. So that means we'll hear from parents on your concern.
Well, where did it go? Okay. On there, when you separate a child, so they've done some separation so someone needs to be trained on how to sit with a child to regain the control of themselves. So how is that gonna, how do you train a person to watch a child to regain their composure? Because from how I'm reading it, only people who are trained on watching a child regain composure is allowed to sit with the child. And usually a child, whenever they are escalated in that way, they typically will go to a person that they feel comfortable with, and that's how we would get them back to base. And typically it's usually the person that sits down with them and eats with them, and most of the time the people that sit down and eat with them are aides relieving the teachers and the assistant teacher so they could have their break. I'm just saying.
I just really think that when we're talking about trained staff in this one, we're not talking a specific training for this purpose. We're talking about a staff member that has received the training required for their position, because that includes child development and orientation to program and all of those things. So this one is not speaking about a specific training in the same way that restraint is talking about a specific training.
So that was a 3, meaning that we've reached consensus and we've stated the concern.
Well, can we just have that definition, or how did you say it? How the Dell writers clarify on that training, because we do talk about in this area, we do talk about restraint training, and that's why I'm bringing up the whole escalated training part of it, because we do talk about restraint training in I think it's the WAC after this.
Okay, so Lori, I think what we'd say here is to ensure that Dell Tech writers take a look to make sure that training for this specific need is addressed. Is that the best way to, does that meet your need? Yes. Okay, so we've reached consensus on number 3, so we'll move on to number 4 at a weight of 5. So we're going to measure consensus on number 4. Okay, family child care all 5s, licensing all 5s, Head Start ECAP all 5s, centers all 5s, parents all 5s. All right, we'll go to number 5 at a weight of 6. Measure number 5. Family child care all 5s, licensing all 5s, Okay, 1 minute, Team Caucus.
We just we want to add on 5B, if the child is not willing or able, just to put willing there also.
So it's consistent with A.
Exactly, yeah, thank you.
Okay, so then we'll take another round of measuring consensus with the new language of is not willing or able for B as well. Family child care, all 5s. Licensing, all 5s. Centers, all 5s. Parents, we have 5s and 2 3s. And Head Start ECAP, 5s and 1 3. So we'll hear parents' concerns first and then Head Start ECAP.
Okay, so I guess it's really a question. So like I could see how the less stimulating environment or kind of a little quiet place would be something that is easily obtainable for like a center, but I'm not understanding how this would look in an in-home. Does that mean that they're required to have a space delegated just for that? So I guess that's kind of my question.
Family home, if you could respond to that first and then we'll circle back to Head Start ECAP.
Especially those of us who are in early achievers, which most of us are, we are required to have, we are encouraged to have a quiet space where only 1 or 2 children can be and have quiet activities there. Usually it's a soft space with pillows or soft covered furniture, books, stuffed animals, that kind of thing. And all of the early achievers providers that I've been to, they all have that space. In fact, at my house, I have 3.
All right, Head Start ECAP, your concern?
My concern is that once we're physically picking up a child to move them, that feels like physical restraint to me, and there's no reference to that WAC, and to me it feels like it should be put in 335 versus 331.
Okay, thank you. We'll be going back to 335. Obviously, it's a table, so it'd be a good place to review that again. Yes, parents.
Since this section, though, is titled Prohibited Behavior, Discipline, and Physical Removal of Children, I think that should stay in here.
Okay. So we just want to note that we want to make sure that this is, the parents believe it should stay here, not be moved to 335. Okay, so I'll let Lori catch up here, but that means we've reached consensus on 331. Very nice job. Okay. So now we're in kind of a weird spot. Go ahead, Katie.
So we're talking over here a little bit about this question of physical removal and restraint. And I don't know that the definitions are quite clear enough. There's no definition in the definitions for physical removal.
And yeah, so I guess I would want to see a little bit of clarification around, because if we're considering those two different things, I will say that we don't actually consider those particularly different in Head Start. So.
So when we get to the end of measuring consensus on all the sections, we will be bringing all the definitions that you have flagged as needing further review or development back to you for this very same process, negotiation and measuring consensus. So Tina's making sure we get those that Katie has mentioned on that list.
Gonna also do is make a note for the group that reviews 335 physical restraint. Did licensing have any feedback on that question? Just okay. Just wanted to check. Okay, noted then. All right. So as I was trying to mention before, we are in a weird spot because the next one is actually another resolution TA. So what we have in front of us is either we can circle back to the 3 environment ones that came back from Dell Tech Writers. I think that's your, I heard from that last time when we talked about this that was your preference to circle back to it as soon as possible instead of waiting till February. So my proposal to everyone is to move into environment. Again, there's 3 that you guys sent to Dell Tech Writers and now they're back. The first one is 0295, Infant Toddler Programs and Activities. Zero two nine five. 0295 is the first one, and then we'll go to 0290, it's number 2, and then we'll go to 0210. These were all actually sent to Dell Tech Writers at different periods of time. So they're back. Oh, whatever's in a box, right? Can you scroll down and see how many are in a box? 1, 2, oh, the whole thing. Okay, so it appears that 0295, you guys sent the whole thing to Dell Tech Writers, and you'll see their response are in the box. Okay, so I'll read that to you. Number 1, an early learning provider must support each infant and toddler's culture, language, and family at a weight of 5. Number 2, an early learning provider must ensure an adequate supply of age and developmentally appropriate program materials and equipment for infants and toddlers in the early learning program. Materials and equipment must meet individual, developmental, and cultural needs of children in care, and must be A, clean and washable, disposable, B, non-poisonous, free of toxins, and meet ASTM standards, C, large enough to prevent swallowing or choking, D, safe and in good working condition, E, child-sized, F, accommodating to a range of abilities and special needs of enrolled children, if applicable, G, accessible for children to find, use, and return independently, and H, removed from the early learning premises as soon as a provider becomes aware an item is being recalled by CPSC. Okay, so let's go back up to 1, just look at the differences of what was originally proposed and what Dell wrote back.
The track changes says to.
What I'm looking at from you guys, the track changes, it was the weight being duplicative is the.
I'm not following. For number 2?
It said, so author Dell agrees that the requirements of A through H are covered in sections 0150 and 0165, making specific rules duplicative. Dell recommends either removing A through H because this will impact the weight, or simply removing the weight for subsections 2.
Okay. So I'm going to circle back up to 1, though, really quick before we go to 2, but thank you. Parents had a comment. Is it on number 1?
My comment is we need a little bit of time so our group can read over this, and we went to get copies printed. Not we, but Aliza went to get copies for
Okay.
us. Is that okay?
Yep.
I'm not sure what to call it.
Let's call it a 5-minute break.
Okay, thank you.
The same comment was for number 1 also. This is
Oh, okay, it's for all of it.
All of it is
Thank you, Nicole.
cited elsewhere, so that's why, that was what we sent to Del Tech writers, is because we felt the weights were duplicative. And they agreed, so that's why I was just letting everybody know.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll put 5 minutes on the clock.
Which one? So we won't respond to that. Do we have consensus? We're blocking it. Yes, it is. We didn't have Jeannie. She at least knows. Oh, yeah. He never stops. Well, apparently she changed the name of ECAP too. To ICAP. Broadband cap. Which school board? know what district she is. If I tell her to do something, I have to just I can take her to the Y in Redmond. I can take her to Lake Washington. So let's take her to 7 visits. Oh, I'd love to go see what that is. But so they haven't talked to us, Katie, or we wouldn't put them on.
No, they haven't talked to anybody. So I actually tasked with
So they could work with us, and we could work with Southeast District if it's his job. So we could just start back there and that would also work us. And how does it relate to broadband and the iBand?
I actually had a conversation with Frank after the car said Tuesday because there was
Hi, friend. We're here with Intel.
and I told them that we met with and I said, "Oh, I took a position on the and he said, oh yeah, she knows nothing. She's gonna be the biggest challenge to work with. He said, unfortunately, it's Tracy. I said, don't worry. He said, she's also new here.
Because I've compressed them down to like 20 gig file sizes, you know, instead of 2 terabit file, you know, so it's horrendous speed format. So, and I could probably compress it down even more, but you know, you start losing quality.
So just an update, our 5 minutes are up, but our parents are still gonna make sure that they have all the materials they need, so they'll let us know when they're ready.
He did. Okay, I will say you're awesome. Here you go.
You stole. I like it. Restore the money you stole from early achievers. You creeps. Ryan's feeling okay. So you better do one step. Talking to him. Is that what you're trying to go to? He's a ninja. He's a ninja lottery. I love him. He only shows up when he actually has to.
Because if you use the camera on that, it just brings back the iris. This way it's just a straight bam. I can just go back and forth between the laptop and the camera. It's actually loop feeder back. And she goes into the projection.
These movies are pain. They're painful and they're painful.
All right, so I heard parents are ready. Awesome. Thanks everyone for giving parents the time to catch up because we know that this is a little bit out of order. I mean, you know why? It's because you guys have done such a great job going through these. I want to remind you that our typical pace is 10 per day, and you've gone way past 10 per day, so great job. Okay, so now we are starting with 0295. I actually forgot to put this up. 0295. There is 11 so far from today. Okay, 0295, we've already read this. We're looking at the language in the box, both of the languages in the box. Nicole reminded us that what we asked Dell to do is review duplicate information. So if the comment was for 1 and 2, that was specific to the weight, is that right, Nicole?
Yeah, is it, because I'm looking at the PCD track changes document.
Yeah.
I don't know.
If we could show the comments, Lori. Oh, thank you. Dell agrees. So, okay, you guys said these rules are covered elsewhere. Dell agreed. The weight for this subsection could be removed. This rule or very similar rules are addressed in 0160 and 0330. So this weight would be NA. Number 2, Dell also agrees that the requirements for A through H are covered in sections 0150 and 0165, making specific rules duplicative. Dell recommends either removing A through H, removing all of this, because this will impact the weight, or simply removing the weight for subsection 2. So let's start with number 1. So when we read through that, that means that Dell recommends that number 1 becomes a weight of NA. Licensing. Oh, you're ready to go. We are ready to go. So let's measure consensus on number 1 with a weight of NA. Family, child care, all 5s. Licensing, all 5s. Head Start, ECAP, all 5s. And centers, all 5s. Parents have a comment.
Can we have a quick sidebar with Debbie from?
Okay, we'll do a 1-minute sidebar with Debbie.
This is great. We agree that we're going to need a variant. We're supporting
have contraband, but they're not gonna use it. That's why we were teasing them that it was contraband. They have contraband. Don't, please stop. Oh, but you were here. Oh, yeah. Oh, you're on a high bed. I got up here. You know what I did though? I have slept through my alarm maybe one other time in my life.
Okay, the sidebar is up.
Michael
So
woke me up
parents,
and said,
did you have a comment or are you ready to move?
and I think it was music.
Okay, so everyone else has voted, so parents, could you show consensus how you feel about number 1 and a weight of NA? Okay, so we're doing all 5s for parents as well. Great, so we've reached consensus on number 1 at a weight of NA. Okay, so we have 2 options here for number 2. Either make this weight NA or remove A through H. Would someone like to make a proposal? Licensing.
I propose we leave them because it's informative and this is a very specific group of children that I think it can help to inform what's needed for them even though there is no weight.
Okay, so the proposal on the table is a weight of NA. All right, so let's measure consensus on number 2 with a weight of NA. Family child care, all 5s. Licensing, all 5s. Parents, all 5s. Head Start ECAP, all 5s. And centers, all 5s. All right, awesome. So that is 0295. Yay! 0295. All right. So let's move to 0290. Infant and toddler sleep, rest, and equipment.
I just searched the number. On their document, they didn't show that.
Okay, 0290, infant, toddler, sleep, rest, and equipment. I think it's just 1, 2, and 3, right? Let's just quickly scroll down. Do you mind? Okay. So it's 1, 2, and 3. There's 4 total. Let's see. Okay, so it looks like are there notes here at all? Okay, so you guys said to distinguish needs of infants from toddlers. This is already done in subsection 1 and 2.
So what they've done is remove toddlers.
Uh-huh. So separated. So 1 is for infants and then 2 is for toddlers. That's how it's been distinguished. All right, so I'll go ahead and just read through it. That will probably help us understand. Number 1, for infants, an early learning provider must provide a single level crib, playpen, or other sleep equipment. Providers must not use sofas, couches, or adult-size or toddler beds for infants sleeping at a weight of 6. Number 2, for toddlers, an early learning provider must provide and use a single-level crib, playpen, toddler bed, or other developmentally appropriate sleep equipment, a weight of 6. Okay, so luckily we can see all the track changes here. Number 3, sleep equipment must, A, be of a design approved by CPSC, or ASTM safety standards for use by infants and toddlers. B, for cribs, have a certificate of compliance sticker or documentation from the manufacturer or importer stating the crib meets 16 Code of Federal Regulations. C, have a clean, firm, and snug-fitting mattress designed specifically for the particular equipment that does not have tears or holes and is not repaired with tape if applicable. D, have a moisture-resistant and easily cleaned and sanitized mattress if applicable. E, have a fitted sheet that is designed for the sleep equipment. The sheet must be laundered at least weekly or more often, such as between uses by different children or if soiled. F, be arranged and spaced at least 30 inches apart. And G, have a moisture-resistant and easily cleanable solid barrier if cribs are placed end-to-end closer than 30 inches, a weight of 7. So we'll just, thank you, just strike the rest of the 3. Okay, and the last one, number 4, an early learning provider must A, immediately remove sleeping children from car seats, swings, or similar equipment not designed for sleep. B, consult with a child's parent or guardian before the child is transitioned from infant sleep equipment to other sleep equipment. And C, transition children who are able to climb out of their sleeping equipment to developmentally appropriate sleep equipment. A weight of 7. I'm actually going to check to see if we already, I think we might have already reached consensus on one of them. 290. All right, it looks like we need to reach consensus on all 4 sections, all 4 subsections. So go ahead and measure consensus on number 1 for infant sleep. Weight of 6. So licensing are all 5s. Head Start ECAP, all 5s. Sure. Okay, 1 minute team caucus on the clock.
We use mats on this one in our early head start program when we were in high school. Or some other kids. We did the same thing. Yep. Well, these were, ours were older, and they learned how to get their, here they are at 11 years old, trying to drag their mats out. They got really used to it, you know.
All right, that's a 1 minute team caucus. Do you need more time? Centers? Do you need more time? Okay, we'll put 1 more minute on the clock for team caucus.
It is small.
I know that I forgot, I was going to have to stay straight about it.
So do we need to give you some strength-based statements?
What's another way you can frame that? Don't worry, we have another.
But she's been here the whole time.
Who said you got Sunday off? Did you approve Sunday off? You can skate on FaceTime and we'll.
You can just, you can text us like every hand.
Centers, did you have a comment or you just needed a minute? Okay. All right. Head Start ECAP, did you have a comment?
Yes. So on number 1, we weren't entirely sure why developmentally appropriate was removed before sleep equipment. It seemed like it should be the parallel to the toddler one.
So your proposal is to add in
Yeah. So
or
our
other developmentally
appropriate
sleep equipment.
Yeah, other developmentally appropriate sleep equipment. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so with that information, with the addition, I'll measure consensus on number 1, as is on the screen. Yes. Licensing is all 5s.
On number 1, right?
Yes, just number 1. Parents are all 5s. Head Start ECAP all 5s. Centers all 5s. And family, child care, all 5s except for 1, 3, and they'll state their concern.
A little bit confused why 1 and 2 are separated when they're the exact same thing. At one point, we had it where it said for infants and toddlers, and then it's the exact same.
It adds toddler bed.
I know, but we had it where at the end it said, or toddler beds for infant sleeping. And I guess that's too confusing.
If we hover over the comment again, Lori. Yeah, you all said that you need to distinguish between the needs of infants and toddlers. That's
Okay.
why it should be broken out.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so that was a 3, so consensus has been reached. So we'll move to number 2 for toddlers, a weight of 6. Measure consensus. Okay, family child care 5s, licensing 5s, parents all 5s, Head Start ECAP all 5s, centers have 5s and a few 3s.
I just want to make sure that it's noted that a cot could be developmentally appropriate sleep equipment for a toddler. Or a mat.
Okay, so Lori will make that note. And we'll wait a minute since we can't see number 3 while she's typing. You can see it. So centers would like to add some wording to number 3. We'll see if that's acceptable to everyone.
So 0265 already covers sleep, rest, and equipment. So we would just like to add for sleep equipment not covered in 0265 must. Because this is specific to like crib mattresses and things like that. So we just wanted that clarifier added.
What's that again?
0265.
And that is in 02.
It's on page 122 in the track changes document, but I don't know other than that.
0265 is under environment.
Yeah.
And that's sleep, rest, and equipment. And you all reached consensus on that. Licensing has a comment back.
Yes. When I read that, though, as it's now written, but number 3 does cover the things in 1. They need to be approved. So when I read that, what it tells me is number 3 is true for things that are not covered in number 1.
She's talking about it being not covered in a totally different one.
Not this one.
0265, which talks about just general sleep.
Okay, I'm done.
So I think because the heading for this section is infant and toddler sleep rest equipment, that would lead me to believe that this is only talking about the sleep equipment for that age group and the other one is talking about sleep equipment for not that age group. Does that help?
Number 1 of sleep rest and equipment in 0265 says preschool age and younger who are in care 6 hours per day, more than 6 hours per day, who show a need for rest. So it does say preschool age and younger, and then it specifies mats and cots, which definitely will still be used for toddlers and really need to be able to be used in toddler for so that's why we just there goes through a whole thing. Yeah. Thank you.
All right, I think that means we can measure consensus on number 3. Okay, so I'll measure consensus on all of number 3, weight of 7, as it is on the screen. Number 3, did I say 7? Parents have blocked, so we'll go ahead and hear their concern.
So in WAC 265, we had, that we've already come to consensus on, I believe, says that the spacing needs to be 18 inches. And I think that that was something, it's conflicting in this one.
So you'd either want this to be,
I'd like it
you would
to
like
be
to change it
18.
to 18. So you'd want it to be 18 for F and G?
Yes.
Do we need to go and take a look at 0265 together?
While we're looking at it, we would also like to note that the weight is 4s and 5s in the other section.
See if we scroll down to look for the number of inches. Okay, yep, number 8 is 18 inches instead of 30. So this is 265 subsection 8. You'll see that it is 18, that we changed it from 30 to 18, and we've reached consensus on that. Licensing?
So we do think there is a difference between playpens and cribs and cots and mats in terms of in an emergency, in an evacuation, you have to be able to move through, grab kids, possibly move the crib out. You need that space. So we think that that is the justification for the difference between the 18 inches on cots and mats when you're not going to be trying to move the cot, and cribs and playpens where you may need to move, put a bunch of kids in one and move it. And you need the space to be able to get in, grab the child, or do whatever you're doing.
So you're saying you need more space for that?
You do
So
need
would-
more space, and for centers, that is part of the reason it's factored in at 50 square feet per child, per infant, is to address that need.
Okay, we're going to do centers and then parents.
Could it be added unless a plexiglass, because we will have the plexiglass end walls where they can then, do you know, this, does it?
G
Sorry.
kind of addresses that because it says if you have a moisture-resistant, easily cleanable solid
Sorry, I
barrier
didn't
cribs
see
are
that.
placed end to end. Because then you don't
Wait.
need the 30 inches because you're able to access
Yeah, no.
the line of them. Yeah.
Nicole, were you talking about 0290?
I don't know, I'm now trying to look back and forth.
.290 has the barrier at the end. Yep,
Okay.
it does have it.
So we'll hear from parents then.
So I can understand the having to move cots and things around, you wanting the 30 inches apart. But as for like family homes that don't have square footage to accommodate that, is where I think the 18 inches is best.
So I think I will propose a team caucus to discuss this. And if anyone needs to call for a sidebar, we'll do that after 2 minutes of team caucus. Okay, so that's, we're specifically talking about 30 versus 18 inches.
We're just gonna walk around and tell people you should restore what you stole. That's all we're doing.
Can we request a sidebar with family homes?
Okay, so Family Childcare has requested a sidebar with licensing, so I think they've already moved forward with that.
Can we join that sidebar as well?
Of course, yes. So we're going to put 2 minutes on the clock to sidebar. We'll let parents and Family Childcare go to licensing. We are currently sidebarring. So it's gotten a little loud in here. We're hoping that people who are not in the sidebar can keep their voices down so the sidebar can hear each other. Okay. Okay, sidebar is up. It looks like people are done. So we are talking again about number 3, about 30 versus 18 inches. The first group that brought up were parents, so I'll go ahead and reach back out to you.
So I think in here there just needs to be something added that would differentiate the 30 inches only being for cribs and the 18 inches being for floor mats. Or cots, yeah.
Okay, so F, be arranged in space at least, so,
That's where the 0265 comes in. Yeah, the 0265 is cots and max.
Distinguishes here that this is just for cribs.
does that meet your needs, parents?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not covered in, should it be in F as well?
Oh, they're coming back. Smile.
I need a sidebar with the licensing division. Please.
Okay, we're gonna have a 2-minute sidebar
Or,
to make sure this language is correct.
Tyler or
to meet the
Debbie, if
parents'
they're
needs
in
too.
here. I need a sidebar with Debbie. So they want to add in cribs, be arranged and spaced at least 30 inches on F. But then here under G, it talks about a situation where they could be closer than 30 inches.
Well, like if we took a break and we actually went up and back or did something.
So they want to add in cribs here because they're saying, well, there's a.
They came back in. I don't know if I'm.
So now they want to say, well, let's add cribs here, but then at least 30 inches. Yes, it's infant and toddler sleep equivalent. So they say, let's make this cribs be arranged and spaced at least 30 inches. But then here in G, it says having moisture resistant until it's stable. If cribs are placed end to end closer than. So this really isn't possible if you.
Yes.
So I don't actually see in here anywhere.
She jumps on December 1st. Okay. Well, and I was just thinking that that's what we do ours 36. So that's why I said to you, is it in the standard? But no, it's not in the standard. 30, 18 or 30 inches between kids who are sleeping in a crib or on a mat.
Lori, did you want to present what?
Just.
Oh.
I like how you did that though. You look like you were riding a donkey or something.
All right, so I preemptively rang the bell. Sorry, we're still sidebarring.
36. That's what we do in our program, and that's what we're doing. I know that. Yeah. That's what, I do have to remind myself sometimes, like, threshold. We were just talking about we need to, I said we should dance. So there's people with hours that, yeah, like, happy. And I said, or like, you actually should take your 10-minute breaks and go walk, like, move, not just get not getting orange and trying to fill your toilet. Just go, well, you know, sometimes at work I will stop what I'm doing, and even if I don't go outside, I will walk downstairs, I'll just walk around, and then go back upstairs, because my brain is just like sitting, staring at that screen or whatever. I was at 7:38, and it got here. It's only a 40-minute flight, right? Like you just because it's like the little planes take a little bit longer, right? It was a jet. Yeah, they serve. They get up. But it's simple, right? Orange juice, coffee, and water, I think it was, right?
No. All right. So we're coming back together. I'll let Lori describe to us what has changed, what's proposed.
So with the addition requested by the centers, I think it was, who requested to have cribs inserted at F, we clarified that those arranged side by side must be spaced at least 30 inches apart, and distinguished cribs that were placed end to end, which may be spaced closer than 30 inches, and they have to have a moisture resistant and easily cleanable solid barrier if they are closer than 30 inches.
So I actually think it was parents that requested that originally.
Thank you.
But it looks like
That's-
family childcare has comment.
Chair would like to change the weight on this to 5.
Can you explain? Is it because of 0265? So given that licensing looks like they want to say something.
We actually would like to say cribs and playpens.
For both F and G?
Yes, number one, and we are actually opposed to reducing the weight because infants and toddlers are such vulnerable. They need appropriate sleep equipment. They can, yeah, it is very detrimental, so.
Okay. Let's start with just the language then. Let's try to measure consensus on the language only. for all of 3, including the new additions for F and G. So measure consensus on language of all of 3, as is on the screen. So licensing are all 5s, family childcare all 5s. Head Start ECAP, all 5s. Centers, all 5s. Okay, thanks. Parents, all 5s. Okay, so we got the language down. The weight, we're between a 5 and a 7. Dell licensing, I'm going to assume that you'll block if we go to 5. Okay. Family childcare has a comment.
At one point we had where A, B, and C were weighted a 7, and then E, F, G were weighted a 5.
A, B, C, and D weighted a 7?
And D, E, F, G was weighted a 5, yeah.
Are you proposing that we go back to that?
We had it split up for some reason on my notes. Does that?
So A, B, C would be 7. D through G would be 5. So that was originally how, I guess, a small group decided on these. I think maybe you need a 1-minute team caucus to discuss that? Or you're, okay?
DEL's okay with that concept.
All right. So let's make those changes on the screen, if you could, Lori, and then we'll measure consensus. So the weight would be at the end of C and then the end of G. So all A, B, and C together is a weight of 7. D through G together is a weight of 5. So that's a weight of 7. Great. All right, I'm going to measure consensus on the weight of 7 for A, B, and C. So we're measuring consensus on just the weight of 7 for A, B, and C. Let's just start there. Licensing are all 5s. Parents are all 5s. Family childcare 5s and 1 4. Yep.
B to be a 7, it says have a certificate of compliance, so this isn't saying that your crib, so what if you lost your piece of documentation and then you had to go find it, but it's not that your crib isn't compliant, it's that you misplaced your piece of documentation. For that to be a 7 would be too high. And that's what this is saying, is to have the certificate. I'm not saying you shouldn't have it. But A is that it is compliant. So the documentation should not be a 7.
So would you propose maybe moving B down to C and then C through G be 5?
Yeah. Switch B and C.
So the proposal is to switch B and C.
Or not B and C, because we don't want it to, effectively, however you need to do it, we don't want it to be a 7.
So for B to be 5 and A and C to be a 7.
Yep.
Yes, I understand. Yeah, I just want to make sure before we move it, licensing.
1 minute, please.
Okay, 1 minute team caucus.
We'll ask him. Since you guys are using permanent, since your marriage going. We know you're gone a lot, so that's why that's a little bit.
Sorry.
Let's take him to dinner. Let's give him that. That's the control. We're sitting away for 6 months.
Okay, I get it, I'm just asking. Okay, you could do
All right, licensing, do you need more time or are you okay? 30 more seconds on the clock for team caucus.
It might be more doable.
All right, licensing?
Okay, licensing thinks that B should actually be a little I under A because it's how you show that you have A, that you're meeting A. And then we also believe that we should be moving E up to the higher weight because that fitted sheet is a safety if it's
It was
I
not
mean,
E
not
anymore,
E,
so
I'm
it's
sorry.
D now.
D now. But we need to move that one up because that one also is a safety concern for children, not just a health concern.
Okay, centers also had a comment.
We don't think a tear or a hole in a mattress is a 7. It is serious, and yes, it causes germs, and we won't just leave it that way, but we don't think that that is a 7.
Okay, so you would make B a weight
I
of
wouldn't
5.
make B, the problem is that B, some of B, the clean, firm, snug fitting mattress designed specifically for particular equipment that does not, that is a 7. But the tears, holes, and repaired with tape, that isn't a 7.
So you think if we move D up and make that a 7, have appropriate fitted sheet that designed for sleeping equipment, that actually meets what you're saying with that it should be higher. Right? You'd like it to be 2 separate sentences. So down here, have it B. Have a clean, firm, and snug fitting mattress designed specifically for your equipment. Period. So after equipment, we put a period. I'm pointing up here, but Laura, you're right here, so. Yeah, equipment.
I got the eyes on the back of my head.
And then you would make that a separate section and make it a weight of 5. But, so it would be a C if we enter. Down to E. So centers, Nicole, could we move the tears or holes to D as a part of D? D up. Okay, let's go ahead and move that first. Can we sidebar with you to? Well, yeah, let's have a multi sidebar here to make sure we have the right language on the screen.
No, we're actually okay.
What a bad red line lunch. We've had some really weird red line lunches in my lifetime. Because we've been, I've been coming to Red Lions since before Katie was working at Massac. They meet that state for being rate, government rate. They give you the government rate, and so that's why they get chosen. No, they'll just give it to you. You don't have to fight. You don't have to. Yeah. I think, well, that depends on what you choose, but they have choices that will fit. Yeah. Yeah, they're just always. And did you know if you have, for us that work like for the school district or the state, you know, we have like, or if you have something that says you work for Head Start and it's part of a federal program, they'll actually give it to you personally. Red Lion. Well, you know, some of them are not. Some of them are nicer than others. I stayed in one in Sacramento. I wouldn't leave my dogs at. I think so. I think so. We just drove in. It was terrible. And we moved 3 times. We had them take us to different rooms because people smoked in them. I mean, it was, oh. And we had the babies because we were moving them, moving them to San Diego. And so I just booked it because it was a Red Lion, figuring it would be decent, you know, not, it was terrible. And then we stayed. Well, we didn't really, you know, yeah. And then we got to San Diego, but we knew we'd get there late before we could get the keys to their new place. So we booked a hotel there, and it was like an America's Best. And I kept saying to Henry, please keep your shoes on. Come on, Henry, I think we should wear our shoes. And he kept taking them off, but the carpet was so rough, kept saying, let's wear our shoes. Like, it was like, yeah, well, it was like 98 degrees in San Diego. It was like, let's wear our shoes. And he kept taking them off, and I was like, Henry, let's wear our shoes. Well, no, and then when we picked him up to wash his feet, they were flat. It was terrible. Yeah, the best value, towards the, a little bit further out.
All right. So, do you want to talk through what we did? Hold on. Nicole might have more edits. Okay.
Well, this one was. Well, there was the same cost to get like 3 beds, right? So there was like 2 beds and then supposedly another room. That other room was just fit. They put a bed. And the air conditioner, no air conditioner in that separate room. So it was like totally useless. So it was like totally useless. So I'm glad we didn't pay too much for it. And then when we checked it out, I said, can I give you a receipt? We had copies. It said, night stay, price, signature. So it says August, so he writes in August, whatever that day was, one night at, and it was like $98, whatever.
All right. Lori's going to talk through the changes that were made.
And he goes, that's what we do for receipts.
All right, everyone. We're going to come back.
Okay.
Okay, so we've got 10 minutes left of, yeah, go ahead and clap. You guys did amazing work today, so. 3A is now just design related, making sure that it the design complies with the two standards, safety standards, and it carries a weight of 7 along with B and C. We have a note here that what has become little I to say what is acceptable documentation carries a weight of 3. And I have noted that for the technical writers to figure out how they're going to make that happen. B is now simply having a clean, firm, and snug-fitting mattress designed for the particular equipment. And C is related to sheets, that the sheets used are designed for the sleep equipment. And as I said, 3A, B, and C carry a weight of 7, and little AI is carried a weight of 3. Then these next 3 together carry a weight of 5, I believe it is. Yes. So D is having a moisture-resistant and easily cleaned and sanitized mattress, if applicable, and it is free of tears or holes and not repaired with tape. E, the sheet must be laundered at least weekly or more often, such as between uses by different children, if soiled or if soiled. F, it's back to the cribs and playpens that are arranged side by side. They're going to be spaced at least 30 inches apart. And G is for cribs and playpens placed end to end. They must have a moisture-resistant and easily cleanable solid barrier if they are spaced closer than 30 inches. And again, D, E, F, and G carry a weight of 5. Yes.
Licensing.
We have a comment under C. That should be a tight-fitted sheet.
Okay, I think that was just a copy-paste error. It was like that before. Do people need some time to read through this and talk to your team, or are you ready to measure consensus? Okay, so let's measure consensus on all of 3 with the various weights throughout. Family childcare, all 5s. Licensing, all 5s. Parents, all 5s. Head Start ECAP, all 5s. And centers, all 5s. Great teamwork there. That was awesome. Okay, so for this one, we just have 4. Where? What do you mean?
So this sleep equipment
Was 3? Uh-huh.
The first 3 were revised at the request of the group.
Yep.
I'm not sure if we had reached consensus on that.
We hadn't. Okay, so let's measure consensus on number 4, a weight of 7. There was a question on immediately versus as soon as possible, and Dell reviewed everything that said immediately, and they just determined that immediately still applies here. So that's what that comment is here. Okay, so sorry, with that, we'll measure consensus on all of 4. Licensing, all 5s. Parents are all 5s. Head Start ECAP, all 5s. Centers, we'll come back to you. Family childcare. Do you need a minute? Is it a 3 comment, or you want to make a comment first?
Like to change the weight for A to be 7 and B and C to be 5.
Would you like to provide a rationale of why?
I understand why A is that way. I did hear the story of a child dying from falling over, being asleep in a car seat, so I totally understand that. But getting permission from a parent to transition, I don't think that warrants a 7. And if a child is climbing out of sleeping equipment, I mean, it's like, yeah, I don't think that should be a 7 either.
It's a lower risk. Okay. I feel like we need a team caucus from people's reactions. I'm going to propose a 1-minute team caucus.
Buying a lottery ticket if that happened. But I'm just saying, no, you know that's the kind of thing. Sweet. Is it talking about a mom? You didn't know where you were?
Okay, so that was a 1-minute team caucus on the proposed weight changes. I'm going to just measure consensus to see where we are on this, the weights as is on the screen. So then I'm going to measure consensus on the language and the weights as is on the screen to see where we are. All right, we're going to add 2 minutes for team caucus.
I think because they're trying to say, like, the first one can cause death, the other ones don't. So, our nose could be sevens. Oh, look at Vanessa's got a solution. This knitting thing works. She just said, Katie, this knitting thing works. Yeah, so transitioning to them from equipment to equipment with parent permission.
Do the parent consult separate, and then the A and C would be, I don't mean, which one is that? So A and C, do we think that A and C are definitely?
I forgot who called for the team caucus. Do you need another minute? Okay, parents need 1 more minute for team caucus.
There's no public.
lunch and I watch this stuff. Look at this stuff.
You got the two up there, you got one up there.
Alright.
Oh, he's thinking about it. He's like, I'm not sure how to make it do that. You have to blow on it, Tucker. Throw out on it. There, he needs a better one.
Parents? Thirty more seconds for parents. 1 more minute for parents. 1 more minute.
Because kids can get hurt or die. Yeah.
They have
Who are in their car seats asleep. Well, they're not in ratio. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, they are in ratio. Yeah, they are. He doesn't agree, Kate. He's like,
All right, parents, how are we doing? So we'll go to parents and ask for your comments first, since you asked for the team caucus. Do you have comments?
Yes, we do. Please share.
Okay. So when we first went through this before, I think we had A was a 8, but now it's a 7, which we could do A 7. We actually wanted A and B to be 7 and C a 6, just because of the parent involvement, getting the parents' permission is what we were discussing.
Do you want to expand more on the importance of that and the risk that you discussed?
We have another parent.
One of the things we're looking at is that we would hope that the child care providers are going along with the parents' wishes as to when we're working our child out of the crib and communicate back and forth so we're on the same page. It has to be a mutual thing. And then I believe Victoria wants to say something.
And then there also comes into play that child care providers recognize general basic ages and stages, movement and progress. And the baby is not gonna just, the infant, is not just suddenly gonna start climbing out of the crib. It's a progressive thing. And if you notice that the child is beginning to display those developmental markers, that is when you would want to reach out to the parent and say, I've noticed that these things are happening, and it is my recommendation that we move them to a toddler bed, or I think that this would be a good time to do that. Can we discuss it? But you absolutely, in my opinion, and I think in most of the parents' opinions at this table, need to have them on board before you just put their child in a different situation than what they're expecting. Because if something happens and they find out, that is going to be so much worse than if you had set this up beforehand by recognizing those stages of development.
Okay, Head Start, ECAP, and then centers.
So we have a slightly different take at this table. We would actually, I totally respect the parents' thoughts on this. That makes a lot of sense. We actually had thought that we would probably, because these weights are about child safety, we would probably reduce B to a 5 or a 6, but leave A and C as a 7. We would move the consult to a separate section. But we actually strongly feel that transitioning children needs to be a 7 because it's that is where they jump out of the crib, fall on the ground. Yeah, so that has clear safety implications there.
We have a couple comments. So for us, just speaking to the weights, having the conversation be with the parents, again, we want to make sure we're partners with the parents, so those are very important. But having it be a 7 with a potential to suspend or revoke a license doesn't seem appropriate here. And also, I don't think we legally can transition unless they're climbing out of the sleep equipment. I don't think we can move them to a cot before they're 1 anyway. Is that in safe sleep true? So we can't just move them to cots when they're 6 months old anyway. Yeah, so to have a suspension or revocation of license that doesn't seem appropriate here. And then the other part for providers is the word immediately remove sleeping children. If a child falls asleep in a swing or a bouncer and you are a one provider with 4 babies and you're changing a diaper, immediately means the second that child falls asleep. That is not possible if you're in the middle of changing a diaper. It's not possible, or you could leave the child on the changing table and risk them rolling off, and that would be breaking a different whack. Or you could be feeding a child, and then you'd be leaving them out of arm's reach to go move the sleeping baby, so then you'd be breaking that whack. So we really need it to be as soon as possible, because you have to be able to finish changing that diaper before you go move the child out of the bouncer that fell asleep. In the car seat, the parent needs to move their child out of the car seat. The parent can't leave the building without the child being moved from the car seat. But the falling asleep in the sleeper or in the swing or the bouncer, we have to be able to finish changing the diaper or safely transition from that child from the food to get the child. And we don't want children to die in a swing or a bouncer for reasons I don't even have to go into. So we wouldn't be just leaving them in there, but as soon as possible is where we need to be on that.
If a child is going to fall asleep while you're either changing a diaper or feeding another child, and you've placed them in that seat, I feel like you probably know that child's about to fall asleep. So before you go change that diaper, why didn't you put them in a crib?
So I'm going to actually pause the conversation now. I think we're at the end of the day. We've already went 10 minutes into public comment. We do have one here. So I think we'll take one more comment after this, but I'd like to, just because there's a lot of edits here, put them all out on the table, marinate over this overnight, talk to each other, and we'll come back fresh and revisit this. So if there's one more comment from Family Child Care you want to go ahead and state, then we'll move on.
I just wanted to comment on that. Sometimes, no, you don't know they're going to fall asleep. I've had kids fall asleep when I'm feeding them in the high chair. Kids fall asleep. Some kids easily, some kids not. So you can put them in a bouncer or whatever, and they're playing, and then the next thing you know, you turn around, they're quiet for a second, and they're asleep, and you're in the middle of feeding another child or changing a diaper. You can't predict that they're going to always know when they're going to fall asleep. You just can't.
Okay, thank you everyone for your comments. Please take some time to think about this last one before tomorrow when we come back together. Confer with your teams. 356 and 357 came back from the small group around centers ratios. Please also take some time to talk to your team about what came back from there, because we're going to revisit that tomorrow as well. So that leaves us with public comment. We have one. Thank you so much for joining. So if you could introduce yourself, and we have just about 5-10 minutes for your comments.
Ooh, uh-oh. Thank you. They said 3. I'm Rebecca Lee. I'm with Green Gable Children's Learning Center here in Spokane. My husband and I have 3 facilities here, 2 on the south side, 1 in North Spokane. We have 18 total classrooms, almost 300 children, 4 programs that are ECAP. So I do feel like I'm in a small position to be able to maybe share a tiny bit of insight into what it's like to be a local business owner that's taking care of other people's children so that they can go to work all day and know that their kiddos are in a really safe environment. And I know that every single person here is really interested in that exact same thing. And I think that this whole process is amazing. And I want to thank the Department of Early Learning for making this happen. This is something that may not have happened 15 years ago or even 10. So I thank them and I thank all of you for your participation. Some of the things that I have been hearing from other centers and other parents within our center relates to a couple of different issues, some of which may not have been discussed today, but that are previously, and one of them has to do with the third sink. Does everybody know what I'm talking about? Okay. So I guess one of the pieces of feedback that I have gotten is, would it be possible to have an alternate method so that if your center cannot be retrofit, if you don't have the ability and perhaps the finances to put in that third sink, could there be a wash tub? What do restaurants do? Have there been issues over the years where kiddos are getting parasites or what have you because we're doing it incorrectly? And I don't know where that information would come from, but I would just ask that there maybe be some alternates to the cut and dry. You must do this. You must have a third sink. Perhaps there could be you must have a third sink, and if that is not possible, perhaps, this is the alternate, is what we're asking. The other piece is specifically, it's my understanding, and I could be wrong, don't let my husband know that, that the Safe Sleep and the SIDS piece may potentially apply to toddlers. And I was wondering if there might be some information about where that data or research is coming from. It was my understanding that that really does affect children up, I believe, through 12 months, I believe, is my understanding. So I didn't know where the data was coming from. And I think that a lot of times that information, when we're going to providers all across the state and we're saying, these new WAC codes need to be implemented and you have this amount of time to do it, that it would be really beneficial. There would be buy-in if folks understood why the changes are what they're going to be. I think that we all want the same positive outcomes for kids. The other thing that was interesting was that there was some information about some outdoor schools, preschools specifically, maybe over on the west side of the state, although it would be a little wet. But that some of those pilot programs potentially may not have to follow the same WAC codes that all of the other providers across the state would have to follow. And so we just want to make sure that there's equity in, in enforcement of all of the WAC codes for everybody in the same way. So I know it's a lot of work. I really do. I've read the WACs. I've studied them really hard. I know that you guys have also. And I just want to thank you for what you're doing for early learning as well. Thank you.
be aware. So the outdoor preschool or outdoor preschools been operating around the state for a number of years already. You may know about some of them. We may not know about some of them as we've been kind of outreach into outdoor preschools. We've been very surprised to find about 50, 60 providers who, one way or another way, provide outdoor nature-based preschool services. Some of them are already licensed, and it's their way of providing services. Majority of them are part-day preschools right now, so they're license exempt, and they don't have to follow licensing rules. The bill been passed in the last legislation session, and bill is specifically asking for a pilot. And the pilot's supposed to look at this new setting, outdoor setting, and help legislation to understand, would it be possible to license outdoor preschools, and would it be possible for outdoor preschools to operate in a full day capacity versus part-day capacity. So it's a 4-year pilot. It just started this July. No one is operating full day. So the first year, and you can go to the Department of Learning website and look at the timeline and look who is participating and in what capacity people are participating. So the first year will be dedicated to collecting data from all of the participants in order to understand what their policies, procedures are, what their professional development systems are, what their business models are, so on. So we would like to understand how they operate and what they're operating based on. Then we would like to see what type of subset of the rules we need to put in place so they will operate based on the licensing rules. And after we will collect this data, we hope to come up with a subset of the licensing rules for the pilot. And those 10 providers who volunteered and who we chose through the recruitment process as pilot implementers, they will pilot the rules and will operate based on the rules that we will create for them and train them on. So they will still operate even as a pilot, but they will still operate based on the licensing rules. The same rules. Yes, they have a different setting. So the rules, some of the rules may be applicable for them. Some of the rules may not be applicable for them. Some of the rules may be tweaked. So because it's an outdoor setting. So we don't know right now how they will look like because we even didn't collect the data yet. And we don't know how they're operating currently. So I cannot say to you right now how those rules will look like, what we need to tweak and what we will need to keep as is. So again, it's a pilot. It's an experiment. There are only 10 participants who will pilot whatever rules we will develop for them, will be trained on them, and they will pilot them. And after that, our goal is to provide recommendations to legislation and actually say to legislation, it's possible for the outdoor preschools operate full day and be licensed, or it's not possible, and it's one of the parents' choices for the part day and be license exempt, as they operate right now as a license exempt. So this is what outdoor preschool pilot is. And again, you can go online on the Department of Learning website and read more about it. It's an outdoor preschool, only outdoor, specifically those who provide services outdoor. And we looked at the statewide participants. So actually we have, if you will go to the website, you will see where all of the geographical locations of those participants. So they're not only on the west side of the state, they're also on the east side of the state. And on the north side of the state and on the south part of the state. Any more questions about the pilot? Thank you, and thank you for your comments. Appreciate it.
All right, thanks everyone. I want to take a second to let you know you've reached consensus on 13 WAC today. Great job. It's amazing pace. As I mentioned before, usually you guys average around 10. So really great work today. We'll see you tomorrow morning, 8 o'clock for breakfast, 8:30 we'll start promptly. Have a good night.